What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you with the one, the only, my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. Not only is it the first podcast of the regular season, it's also the first live Hardwood Knocks of the regular season. You know what that means? Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Hype points, those are a thing now. Hype us up. But again, comments, likes, recommend us, subscribe, share the episodes. All that good stuff. We appreciate it. We are here to do, before we even ask how Grant is doing, our first ever overreactions draft, where Grant and I, we've seen, obviously we know enough to understand how the season is going to unfold at this point. The season's now 3 whole days old, and I feel confident in saying I don't need to watch another game. So we have parsed the discourse. We have come up with 15 overreactions that we think would be the biggest or most pertinent overreactions. They're not necessarily things we believe, but we think that they are talking points worth discussing. We will not get to all of them. We will only be doing 10 or 12, hence the draft element. So we will have a card up on screen where we will pick from, and then we will dig into each topic. We will alternate selections. No one has ever turned anything like this where we're take-smithing into a draft. So I'm really excited to be just in vogue and ahead of the curve. And with that, I will throw it to you, sir. How the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here on our first podcast of the season. I thought when you said, and you know what that means, referring to the live aspect, I thought you were going to say mistakes, screw-ups,
that too.
regrettable comments. It's all on the table. No, this is great. It is overreaction season, just like by definition. So this is the perfect way to address what, as we're recording this, has been basically 2.5 nights of games and really only 1 full slate. But God damn, like this has been unbelievable. Some of these games already, right? Like we're getting double overtimes left and right. We're getting, well, I'm not going to spoil what else we're getting because we're going to talk about it. But it's not an overreaction, Dan, to say that the first 3 days of this season, as we sit here today, have been pretty badass, and I've enjoyed it very, very much.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I do wonder if, and we might get into this, we might not. Who knows? It's a draft. I do wonder if Oklahoma City is trying to set the record for just the number of games that go outside, not just outside regulation, but into double overtime.
Most minutes played in a season. They got to be the leaders through 2 games. That's guaranteed. That's a lock.
So do you have any thoughts about how you're going to approach this or game it before we actually get started with it?
Yeah, here's how I've been thinking about this. I didn't sleep last night because I was really concerned with how I'm going to win the draft. I'm going to pick the things that I want to talk about the most as soon as I can in the draft. I know that's nowhere near your strategy though, so I feel pretty safe confiding.
I'm going to try and pick the things that you want to talk about the least so that I can just vamp for like 30 minutes on end.
Great.
I think the one final thing before we get started, I'm going to give you the first pick. One, because I feel like I'm a very generous and super kind person. But 2, also, I'm doing so many things to set this up at the moment that I think it's just better off if you start it. How's that for logic?
We want to, yeah. Well, you know what? As a courtesy to you, I'll also let you opine on the thing I pick first, which there was only ever one first pick here to discuss. And that is that Victor Wembanyama is only 64 games played away from winning MVP because he's already got 1. And that one was, I think, so he scored 40 points. He didn't shoot a bunch of threes. He got to the line a lot, had some great, had a handful of blocks. I think it was 3. Double-digit, might have got 15 boards. And as I'm hearing the numbers that I'm saying, what I want to convey to you is that they kind of make it seem like that's all he did. And those numbers are nuts. They don't come close to capturing what the experience of watching that season opener for San Antonio really was, because Wemby did 8, 10 things that are unthinkable, just like physical feats that we've never seen. Like, let me ask you, what do you think, or what got you off the couch? What like made you giggle? Like, what was the thing that he did that was the the thing you'll take away from that game is like you're telling someone about what Wemby did against Dallas in the opener? Is there a single play that stands out? Because I have trouble narrowing it down from like a half dozen.
So It's definitely tough to narrow it down, but it has to be he swallows Derek Lively's shot at one end, comes up the floor, and then just hits this crossover step back three over, not even over Derek Lively because he had kind of shook him by that point. He was still inside the arc and closing out from there while Wemby was like already getting off his release. And that was just, it was a moment in a long line of many moments where you just felt like it's over. This is just, what are we supposed to do? And it was also, just to add on to what you were saying, you and I, we put Wemby in our preseason MVP discussion. We both, I don't remember where we had him exactly, but we both had him in the top 5 of our ballot. It made me start to think that we overthought the Spurs to where we were wondering, oh, is this really a team that could be above 500 a bunch? And I still think you look at a team like Denver, you look at a team like OKC, you look at a team like Houston, maybe even Minnesota. Can they hang with them? But this idea that maybe they won't be a top 6 team in the West if Wemby is going to play like that. They played like that, Grant, and have yet to incorporate De'Aaron Fox, who is only going to juice the shooting might be a question, but the speed at which they're playing, almost 30% of their points came in transition. One game. But this is the thing. Is Wemby going to win MVP? Is he the best player in the league? And just how good are the Spurs going to be because of it?
Here's what I would add. One, yes, we did, like, there's a very simple way to evaluate the Spurs, and that is to say, if Wemby is this, then they are winning 55 games, period, as a floor. The plays that, this is how nuts that game was. I forgot about that play. And as you mentioned, the Derek Lively, like, just an inhalation block that led to a transition score, I definitely did, like, gasp when he did that. So the other couple that stand out to me, the driving reverse baseline dunk where his feet are clearly on the floor as he is touching the rim, finishing that play, was like, it was like Vince Carter against the Pacers 25 years ago, but the opposite direction. And Wemby was standing as he reverse dunked. Don't see that all the time. There was another play where he gave 2 hard dribbles and moved Anthony Davis backwards, just like a totally different brand of dominance where he's just going to be physical, which was hinted at a little bit in the preseason, but I was down on some of his preseason offense because I thought he was just taking it to trouble and didn't know what to do. He just bullied Anthony Davis for a baby hook. Like, if that's on the table, there's a million reactions of like, what do you do with this guy? Which answer, I don't know, because here's the other thing. What team in theory is better equipped to give Wembanyama problems than Dallas, whose whole deal is Anthony Davis is a 4. We have a legitimate 5 in Derek Lively who can move his feet. Cooper Flagg's lurking around. Like, if anyone is going to slow him down, it's a team like that. Now, the Houston games will be fascinating too, because you can't bully Steven Adams, for example, and Amen Thompson's going to make things difficult. But like, in terms of the opponent, even like that shouldn't have happened. So I don't know. It's impossible to be like too hyperbolic, in my opinion. Oh, before I forget, I know I'm rambling, but like this is what happens when Wembanyama does stuff like this. If he's gonna get the Giannis, like that's 3 steps, bro, but it's never a travel. If he's gonna get that kind of benefit of the doubt, which he did at least twice against Dallas, late gather, whatever you want to call it, the late gather, he can't be guarded. Because his steps are even longer than Giannis's, and he's a better ball handler. It's just like, if he's going to get that leeway on top of all these other just genetic advantages that he has, it's a wrap. He's going to win MVP. He's 64 more games. I'll end where I started. If he does anything like this and meets the game's requirement, you can't give MVP to anybody else. Because the offense was like the most shocking part. We haven't even talked about his defense other than 1 block. And he was like, I don't know. Maybe we need to move on, but we're also not going to go as long on all this other stuff.
Well, I want to ask you, if this is Victor Wembanyama's default, then the stat line won't stay the same the entire time.
Right.
Like, even looking at the things he's able to do offensively, I mean, one, are we sure he's not 7'8"?
No.
This is like the right. Okay, because now he's listed at, he went from what, 7'3" to 7'5", and they've like listed him at 7'4" now, and so he looks at least 7.5 feet, and that might even like just maybe it's because he makes everyone look so puny. But the handle, Grant, you're talking about him moving Anthony Davis. Not only is he stronger, I don't think the handle's ever going to be. He's never going to have a Kyrie or a Steph handle, but he might as well. like relative to his size, like what he's doing right now. Like it just looks tighter, more fluid. How? I have two questions. You did say that isn't Dallas supposed to be the team that would be able to frustrate him? And I would say maybe, but they're not. Do you look at their individual defenders and think, oh, like this is someone who should really frustrate Wembanyama, or is there like I'm going to ask you, what is the team that you think is most suited or has the player or players most suited to make Wemby look, I'll say, mortal?
Well,
or semi-mortal.
Just theoretically, like Anthony Davis is not that far. He's not this guy anymore, but we're not that far removed from when he was the guy you'd say as an anchor to a playoff defense, he's my number one pick because he could shut the rim off and he could move in space. And he's bigger and he's stronger, I thought, than Wembanyama. Still probably is. Derek Lively is one of the most mobile bigs in the league, can defend the rim. Dallas is huge just collectively. So, like, I don't know, overall, that's to answer your question, like, Dallas is kind of on the very short list of teams I would have thought, well, it's going to be harder tonight for Wemby than against most teams, at least offensively. Defensively, I think it plays very much into his hands because, like, just nobody's bigger and quicker than him on that team. So, yeah, I mentioned Houston. I'm trying to think who else would even...
Do you think, I know they're small, but does OKC have the guys?
Maybe as a good luck dribbling against us kind of proposition. And like Chet definitely is up for it. Like I think that's a budding rivalry that I'm very excited to see the next time they meet. But yeah, Dallas was very high on my list of this is going to be a team that will make things difficult for him. I do want to talk about the defensive side. Just silly blocks aside, I think one of the things that we don't appreciate enough about Wemby's defense, which is an insane thing to say because everybody's over the moon about it. But like one of the things every offense wants now are paint touches because of what paint touches create. Kickouts, start the blender. Everybody says, get the rotations going, make a mistake happen, find an open shooter, drive, like just start that whole process. If Wembanyama devalues paint touches because when he's around, you saw this against Dallas over and over again. Guys would see him, they'd get into the paint, they'd kick it to a shooter, and that shooter would be guarded because none of the Spurs' other defenders are moving off their guys because they don't have to. Because Wembanyama has the paint covered. He's just deterring guys from getting in there and doing anything because they're afraid to put the ball up. And he's also making it so everybody else can just stay home. Because why would you dig down on a driver or a post-up threat when Wembanyama's around? You just don't have to. So, like, the thing every offense wants to accomplish is now worth almost nothing because he's there. Like, whether he blocks the shot or not, it's just so, like, what's plan B? Whatever it is, it's not going to give you as high of an expected value as paint touches do against literally any other defender. So he's just, like, short-circuited the most valuable thing offenses want to do by existing, by just standing there. So, I mean, like, and that's not going to show up in stats other than maybe, like, we'll see some incredible dip in opponent at rim field goal attempt rate when he's in the game. But, like, the blocks aren't going to cover it. They won't show the impact because it's a cliche, but it is very much the shots he prevents from even being taken. And it's just at a level with him that I can't remember ever seeing.
And I think what complicates all of that to make it macro about the Spurs, Steph Castle is a monster. And then already the Cornet Wemby minutes seem like they might be insane. And so you're going to be like, imagine the idea of Wemby just being able to roam even more than he can already because Luke Cornet is on the floor. That's horrifying if you're an opposing offense. So I will throw this. We spent too much time on Wemby, but I have to ask this question because I think it assigns a value to this quote-unquote overreaction. Is Victor Wembanyama going to be the best player in the NBA by the end of this season? Are you ready to put him over? There's Jokic, there's SGA. Not at this moment. I'm saying by the end of the season, but there's Luka, there's Giannis. You could throw maybe another name or two in there.
We've seen one game. He has been better in that one game than anybody else has been this year, and SGA has a 55-point game on the season. So I think there's a case to be made that this is an overreaction. This is what we're here to do. He's the best player in the league right now, today. Like through if this is what he is, and we're overreacting, he's the best player in the league. It's everybody else is playing for second at the moment, because you can't tell me there's a single other performance to date this season that has touched what he did against Dallas. It's not close.
I agree based off what we've seen so far. I think in the grand scheme, I'll hedge. I'll take your job and hedge here.
Great.
I view him as just, if anyone is going to enter the SGA Jokic conversation over this larger portion of the schedule, it is him. And I don't know that there's anyone else who has the power to do it. Not at this moment. Not Giannis, not Luka. Who might even maybe some people want to throw Anthony Edwards in there. I don't think that's just not going to cut it. He is absolutely insane. Also insane, though, Grant, is it is now my turn to pick. Who am I going to go with here? What is left? Okay, I'm going to go with, let's talk a little bit about Alperen Sengun. Yeah. I'm going to say the overreaction would be Alperen Sengun is going to be high on the MVP ballot, or he is just the best player. Houston is his team now. So you watch him when they're going up against OKC in the first game of the season. He has 39 points, 7 assists, 11 boards. I think a few of the things that stand out the most to me is, one, very clearly their offense was at its best when it was running through him. Fred VanVleet injured, Reed Sheppard, maybe we might need to get him at some point, just not ready for that moment. Kevin Durant, that's just not his game. Not setting up for everybody else. Or even at this point, when you look at the way that he's handling pressure, that's not really his strong suit. Alperen Sengun is going to be more physical, uses his shoulders, and also, to OKC's credit, he wasn't super efficient from beyond the arc, and he was taking a lot of tough shots. He has those they're like a combination of Jokic and Sabonis, where they're ugly, but there's also finesse and there's some force there. He might have this is the bigger takeaway, he might just have a perimeter game at this point. We could focus on the three-point shooting, which would be a big deal. He finishes 5 of 8. He was 10 of 11 at the foul line, and he was no great shakes as a free throw shooter to date. If this is someone who now reliably stretches the floor, and was I talking to you about this where we were laughing at you can't call Domas Sabonis a floor spacer because of the volume? It was probably you. No, knowing your Sabonis takes. If you're going to take 4 threes a game, what is the line of demarcation for you when you're looking at, does this guy reliable? And I think from the big man spot specifically, because if you saw a wing taking 4 3-pointers per game, it's all right, whatever.
Yeah, no, the cop-out answer is there's not a hard number. It's just how the defense reacts to that player. And I think based on the opener, you sort of as a defender can't dare him to shoot threes anymore. Because I think in addition to him making enough, it felt to me like there was I think the aesthetics of his form looked better. It looked smoother, and I think that translated to his free throws too. But the willingness to shoot him, the clear lack of hesitation, the understanding. I think Sengun's a very smart offensive player, and it wouldn't have taken a very smart offensive player to diagnose what this Rockets offense is gonna need, having lost its 3 highest volume 3-point shooters from last year. And so I think he entered the first game of the season just fully understanding somebody's got to shoot these, and it looked like he worked on it over the summer just because, again, the form looked better. So I think he's if he goes 0 for 6 in the next game, which we've only seen again one game, we're overreacting, maybe the calculus changes, but I think you probably have to guard him pretty differently than you used to, where maybe you'd sag off, maybe he would pass up those open shots. That's maybe the biggest thing, is he wasn't passing up touches where he might have looked for a pass instead. If he got it and he had space, it was going up, and that was the right decision, and the results were good. So I don't see a reason for him to back off that. And so relatedly, I think defenders have to treat him. 3-level scorer is not quite right, because those weird little push shots and hooks are still kind of short mid-rangers. He's not shooting 16, 17 footers, which I guess why would you? Because he can get closer with his physicality. But you know what I mean? He's kind of become, or it looks like he's become someone you have to guard everywhere as a scoring threat, which was just really not the sort of the write-up on him leading into this season. So he looked great to me. The other thing is this is a different conversation, or maybe less meaningful in terms of MVP or whatever, if he hadn't used last year to prove that he can be in the middle on a great defense. Because that was another question, is can he defend the rim? Is he mobile enough? The personnel around him has a lot to do with it, but the results were the results, and he was a key figure at a critical position on a defense that was awesome last year. So adding this offensive dimension that's how you get into the MVP discussion.
What do you think about this as a second pick in this thing? Like, how much validity do you assign to? I think saying that it needs to be Alperen Sengun's team is really just not spicy at this point. He is.
Well, there's a fair amount of Amen Thompson hype, right? Like, because he did a few things in their game against the Thunder that, some of his drives, like that kind of thing.
And the thing too is, I'm not against this take, by the way. I still think that he can be the fulcrum of their offense, of an above-average offense. What do you think that would look like in the playoffs? I think if Kevin Durant is zooming around you and maybe the April version of Reed Sheppard, who knows, that he could be. I saw a lot of the Rockets need another ball handler. They have to get another ball handler. I actually don't disagree. I think when you get to the playoffs, you want someone, unless Reed Sheppard is going to pop, who's going to be more reliable in those spots, can handle pressure. But I would just like to point out, it was Oklahoma City. Right. I know they were missing James, but that I know that's the team you have to beat. So I understand why we're viewing it through that lens. But the first game of the season, for what some of the things that Amen Thompson was able to do, and even just Reed Sheppard moving a little bit on the ball, I just wasn't. First of all, they can't, unless you want them to trade Amen Thompson or Alperen Sengun, they can't really trade anybody at the moment. So let's come and have this discussion in mid-December, January. And my point is, I saw enough to know that I want to see more as they are currently constructed, because I don't know that. I think the conversation then becomes, well, what level of ball handler do you need to get? Because there's a difference between we need someone in our closing lineup to run the offense, and we need just someone who can eat up 15 to 20 minutes per game, hopefully into the playoffs, but doesn't need to be a part of our closing unit.
Do you think, you know how, I guess I've said this, but I feel like you've co-signed it to some extent, the take of the absolute apex version of the Cavs has like this version of Donovan Mitchell, but he's the second best player behind Evan Mobley, which might be true already, but like in a playoff setting, I still think Mitchell is kind of the guy that makes it work.
Yeah.
What do you think about applying that to Thompson and the Rockets, where the argument is the apex version of this Rockets team, the one that could win a title, has a version of Thompson that is even better than the current Sengun? Like, that is, you know what I mean? Like, for them to get really where they want to go, Thompson has to ascend to that level and surpass Sengun. Even this iteration of Sengun, which we agree is like, holy shit, this guy's really good on both ends.
Yeah, I do think that needs to happen in large part when you're talking about this exact version of the Rockets. He is the person that is going to be bringing the ball up the court, like off those dead balls, off makes. Like, yeah, Sengun sometimes, and off of rebounds for sure. But if you're looking at who's going to have like the most touches in that situation, those most full floor touches, I would assume it's going to be him. And if it's Kevin Durant, I don't think you're doing a service to Kevin Durant at that point.
Yeah, it is interesting. We've reached the point where Kevin Durant he's still just like a 5-alarm fire offensively, but he's not like an additive player in the way that maybe he used to be, or maybe the way that he's thought of, where he's making other guys better just by being out there. It kind of feels like if he were on the Wizards or the Thunder, he would kind of do the same stuff, and it would you would know what you were getting. So there's value in that. But I don't think anybody believes like the Rockets live and die with Kevin Durant. There's like at least 2 players you get to before that feels true.
Yeah, it's not an insult when you look at the stage of his career, still being an all NBA caliber player, looking at what he can do on the offensive end. Now, to wrap this up, I'm going to say the overreaction should be Alperen Sengun will be, I'll say, finish in the top 7 of MVP voting this year. Too hot, not too hot.
I don't hate it.
By
I don't hate it.
By itself. They might need him to. It feels like they need someone to enter that discussion if they want to be a contender, barring some sort of a big trade.
Yeah, if it's not Thompson, it has to be him for them to get where they want to go. All right. I will surprise precisely no one, least of all you, with my next pick. And that, Dan, is the overreaction that claims Jimmy Butler is the most complimentary teammate Steph Curry has ever had. The reason that's an overreaction is that he's played with basically peak Kevin Durant before, won some titles with him. And also Draymond Green's whole deal is that he is the singular most complimentary player to Steph and maybe like the most complimentary non-superstar to a superstar we've ever had, just because of he sort of couldn't be more different than Curry in terms of like what he provides, the gaps he fills, the way he tailors his entire game to sort of maximizing Steph. Here's the case, and we've seen this is why this isn't an overreaction. We've seen 2 games of the Warriors so far, not just one. So we have twice as much data. The way that Butler is a counterpoint to the total like batshit chaos that even the old like the old meaning like these guys are in their mid and late 30s. Even now, they have not calmed down. They have so many empty possessions with dumb passes from Curry, from Green, from like just thrown away, just chaos, nonsense. And like they'll span entire quarters, entire halves. Like that's just priced in. It's never going away, clearly. Maybe it gets worse as those guys lose it athletically over time. The way that Butler's just total, deliberate, calm control of possessions is set against that like sort of core identity of the Warriors is just like it saves them. So it did last year and it has this year too. Things are getting ridiculous and then Butler just gets fouled, or Butler passes up a shot, moves the ball. Oh my God, it's getting late in the shot clock, gets it back, passes up another shot, gets into a spot, up fakes, fouled, or just like waits longer, just is more deliberate, takes more time in a way that like the Warriors have never had that guy that just settles it. And so that's independent of, but related to, I guess, what he does with the non-Steph minutes, which have been good. Like they've eaten into deficits when Steph has sat a couple times already this season because
so should they
Butler.
trade Steph? Is that what?
Yeah, no, he's that's what I'm getting to. If you'd let me get to the point, Steph Curry is super overrated and should be shipped out for maximum value. No, it's just specifically in the sense that Butler gives Golden State a way to just like chill out and relax and be confident that we can get a good shot when we need to, or like just stop throwing the ball all over the gym. That element is new, and it's been like badly needed for 15 years more. I mean, maybe slightly more than that, I guess. So that's the claim I'm making through 2 games, is that his influence is just unique in this version of the Warriors' history.
I think I agree with you, and it sounds counterintuitive, not even because like Steph Curry has played with Kevin Durant, and those are 2 of the most plug-and-play superstars of all time, right? But because almost because Jimmy Butler, in theory, isn't as plug-and-play when you look at his limitations. Like, for his fit, and I'm probably stepping on the toes of a lot of what you said, it feels like he just papers over a lot of the gaps rather than coming in and just coexisting into what everything else that they do. And I think there's more value in that for the Warriors because, historically, of just how much they have struggled when Steph Curry is off the floor. And so to have someone come in who could have that calming presence when it's without Steph, I think is a big deal. I have been impressed, though, like just the way that they've all worked together. I mean, even just looking at throwing Jonathan Kuminga into the fold, Grant, what have been your early impressions of just this is a team that, okay, one of its core lineups apparently is just, in theory, isn't going to have a bunch of good spacers, and yet it's just going to work anyway. Is that an IQ thing? Is it like something that you just view as sustainable? Like, what have been your just, because it's not just the Butler and the Curry of it all, it's the Warriors actively separated like the Draymond, Butler, Kuminga dynamic last year, and they don't seem like they're as inclined to do that this year.
I think there's kind of 3 things that have gone into that. One is you just kind of got to shit or get off the pot. Like with the Kuminga being out there with your best players thing, they just wouldn't do it for spacing reasons and other reasons. They just sort of have to now. Partly because Moses Moody's been hurt the first 2 games. I think you might have seen Moody out there for some of that. The other factor is...
Do you even need Moses Moody when you have Will Richard? I think.
Well, Dan, I got some Will Richard thoughts. That guy knows how to play. He's in the right place all the time. I love Will Richard. Another aspect of it is I do believe the Warriors think they can think their way around the spacing issue. And so far that's borne out because Curry moving around still bends a defense, even if you don't have other shooters out there. If Al Horford's out there, then your spacing issues aren't quite as severe as you think. Butler will shoot the open ones too. He hit a huge one in overtime against the Nuggets as we're recording this Friday on Thursday night. They believe they can think their way around it, which so far they have. The other thing is Kuminga's looked better shooting the three ball. And I don't know that he's at it, to go back to the Sengun of it all. I don't know if he's at a level where defenses are worried about that. That still feels like a shot of that most defenders will view as a little bit of a win because Steph's not shooting it and they're not getting a pick and roll shot out of it and Butler's not posting up. So Kuminga shooting a three is like a pretty good result for a defense. But he's hit him, or at least certainly in the first game, and was at least a threat and hit a couple, I think, in the second game, at least one. So that's part of it. I think and Kuminga, to his credit, has done some of the stuff they've asked him to. Like, he couldn't guard Luka for shit in the first game, but what do you want? He has rebounded, and his passing has been a lot better. He's had at least 2 good passes that led to layups in both games so far. So he's doing the stuff that he didn't before that the Warriors wanted him to do. So that helps too. The spacing issue won't go away because Kuminga goes cold or stops hustling, and then you're just back to why isn't Kerr playing this guy? For now, though, it's looked about as good as it has, and I think to circle all the way back, a lot of that's because Butler just positions everybody to succeed. He literally shoved Kuminga out on a kick-out switch to stay in the corner on a key play late in overtime last night. He put him where he was supposed to be. He didn't tell him to. He put his hand on him and moved him. So just all hail Jimmy Butler, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Early in the season, but there's already been 30 plus minutes of no Jimmy, with Jimmy and no Steph. The Warriors are dead even. So plus minus of 0, net rating of 0, but an offensive rating of 125, which is kind of insane. And Jimmy Butler during this time is averaging 25 points from the free throw line per 100 possessions. Is that a lot? I'm asking for a friend.
That guy. So what I actually, as a Warriors fan, am concerned about is that officials, 60% of the fouls he draws are not fouls for anybody else. And if there's a concerted effort to scrutinize how often is he actually getting fouled, that could hurt. But it doesn't take away the sort of calming impact that he has, which has just been massive so far.
I guess we're on to me now, so I don't really know. Who do I want to pick? So Jimmy Butler's off the board. We all knew I was going to pick Jimmy Butler. I feel like I don't want to go here, but I'm going to go here. The Sixers need to be worried about their Joel Embiid. They have a Joel Embiid problem. This is just, we're at, I don't know what it is, DEFCON 1's the highest, right?
1's the worst. You don't want to be at 1.
So we're close to DEFCON 1 if we're not there already. And when you look at his debut against the Celtics, I know he was on a minutes restriction. I know he played a lot with Dominic Barlow. Can you guess, unless you already know the answer, Grant, how many of his shots came inside the paint? He was 1 of 9, which is bad. How many of those shots came inside the paint?
I don't know, but I will guess 1.
0.
Less
0. He wasn't moving the same. The defense wasn't great from him. He wasn't on. I understand he's on a minutes restriction as he comes back from this left knee procedure, but he also you would assume that if the game is close, you would put Joel Embiid back in if you think he's going to help you. They closed with Dominic Barlow against the Boston Celtics. There were plays where just flat out Xavier Tillman was better than Joel Embiid. That is also just a problem. I understand in the past it has taken Joel Embiid time to ramp up from injuries, from his returns, and any player is going to need that. My concern here is that Joel Embiid might need to get used to coming back from these pockets of time off, coming back and not playing a ton of minutes. Are they playing him in shorter bursts? Coming back and maybe having to play with another big man. Coming back and figuring out, well, how do I adjust to the speed at which VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey want to play versus the change of pace that Embiid provides, and that, frankly, you need. VJ Edgecombe and even Tyrese Maxey right now, maybe Maxey gets there or is headed in that direction. they're not like, let's go break down this set defense and like create something out of power our way to the, like, that is Joel Embiid's job. He will draw all the fouls. He can do some of the finesse stuff, do the pick and pop, but he can work from anywhere. The Sixers need that version of him. And so to me, I look at that performance, and I'm sure everyone's seen the clips of, oh, it looks like he can't jump, just not moving too well. It just concerns me. I know he played better in the preseason against the Timberwolves, but if Joel Embiid, if we know that he is going to play in 50 games, you don't have the margin for error to be like, we got like 11 bad Joel Embiid games. And when you even just sort of, they were outscored, I think it was by 16 points in his 20 minutes of action. That is the single worst plus minus he has ever had while playing fewer than 21 minutes. It's one game, but like, it's close to alarming for me. I don't think the whole can Joel Embiid win MVP again, that conversation's been done for a while, but I think the hope was always, can he get back to an MVP level for X number of games and X minutes of those games? I honestly don't know. And the final thing I'll say is just what's most jarring is minutes limit be damned. We should all be peeved that Joel Embiid wasn't on the court closing against that version of the Celtics, by the way, when you look at their front court. I think it's even more unsettling to know that not playing him was the right decision if you wanted to win that game.
Yeah, great call, right? Like, in what world are we living in where he's capable of playing and you can't put him out there? So that, to me, this raises a couple questions. The first is, and you alluded to it, he did look better in the preseason for stretches. He didn't look quite as just immobile, I guess is the word. So then do you think that these types of games are just going to happen? But I guess this is a positive. You'll also get games where he just looks better, right? Like so it's the issue is the knee is tricky, right? Like some days it feels okay. Some days it feels terrible. We should probably assume it felt terrible in the opener for him. And you're going to have to live with the inconsistency. But the upside of that is there will be some like quote unquote good Embiid nights. Do you think that's the way to view this? Or do you look at a game like the opener where he looked so bad that you just sort of have to say the ceiling for him, like the level he can get to even on the good nights, is way lower than we thought it was? You know, do you understand the distinction I'm trying to draw?
I get the distinction. I think what worries me the most is that I find myself leaning more and more towards the latter of it.
Yeah.
Because even if that ceiling is still super high relative to an average NBA player, how do you continue if he's going in and out of the lineup too? And I'm not saying he's going to miss every other game, but how do you make sure that, well, we are catering to the way that VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey want to play versus, well, then how do we integrate it? Like, finding that balance between those two styles feels like it could take like not just time, but that it might just be something you can't even do. Again, one game. We still haven't seen Paul George with this team. I came away not feeling great about it. And we'll see. I mentioned this before, he's always needed time to work his way into form. But I think the idea of Joel Embiid now is forget everything we just said and focus on what I just said and focus on what you said. When Embiid plays, I would say 70 to 80% of the time you want him to be this dominant force then. Right. So you're willing to surrender those games, maybe even some of those minutes, to say, we know we're going to have 70 to 80% of the Joel Embiid we had 3 years ago, whatever it was. I don't know if you can say you're going to get that version of Joel Embiid on how many games a year, for like, just how many games do we expect him to play in, and how many games do we expect him to look close to the Joel Embiid that we've all come to know and appreciate. And this is not the other thing I want to get out in front of. I'm not basking in this. I hate this, watching him and seeing that type of a game from him. And he's dealt with on the court, off the court, the injuries, the life stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of trauma. To be here though, and we already knew, like, the alarm bells were going off way before, where there was the report he's never going to play in back-to-backs again. Their status was up in the air basically all throughout training camp. I was personally, were you surprised that he even got in a preseason game? Because I was.
Yeah. No, I think one thing that the early returns have done is change the way, because preseason it was like, well, the Sixers over-under is 42.5. It just, if you could tell me how many games Embiid's going to play, I could tell you whether they're going 57 or 23, right? I don't think I don't think you actually get a whole lot of information now based on just, well, how many games is Embiid going to play? Because now it's just like, because that presupposed that he would be very, very good in the games he played. And now it's like, well, if half of them are going to be just trash and he's not helpful, and you're at the point where you have to decide early in the first quarter, is he just going to be in the way of Maxey and Edgecombe and whatever else we want to do tonight? So, I think we've totally, or, somebody probably made this point, but I think we overlooked the possibility that, no, it's not how many games he plays that determines the Sixers' floor and ceiling. It's if he plays 65 games and 32 of them are this, well, who cares how many games he played?
You would think they can't be. Right, because even just as someone who picks and pops, if that's what you turned him into, strictly that, he's going to have better shooting nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is why it's an overreaction. And I will offer you another one with my next pick, which is, again, these are overreactions. The Mavs are going to ruin Cooper Flagg, everybody's favorite number one pick of all time.
This is pick number 5, though, Grant. So you're assigning some real value to the Cooper Flagg alarmism. I just
want to talk about it. I think more than anything, this is an inroad to discussing what Dallas is doing holistically, which is just an interesting way to try to play NBA basketball in 2025. Flagg started at point guard. The Mavs were super huge. Klay Thompson at the 2, PJ Washington 3, Anthony Davis power forward. Just sure, we're just going to continue to embrace this fiction. Derek Lively at the 5. And the offense was clunky. Shocker, right? Also Victor Wembanyama was on the other side. So maybe we're not measuring Dallas against a fair opponent.
On the occasions that you saw, because there was points where you had mentioned this with Wembanyama in general, but you saw Cooper Flagg, I feel actively avoid the rim, or he's falling away because he couldn't get there. Even when he was going up to the rim and Wemby's on the court, I almost just felt bad for him.
Yeah, he's because you just have to be thinking for him. He made several good moves to get space and get to the basket. And I guess maybe this is a credit to him. He just holstered a couple shots that he could have attempted because he saw Wembanyama there. Yeah, it's got to be a rude awakening. That's all to say, though. I thought I was very impressed with Cooper Flagg, point guard, because he could get the ball over half court. Job one, check. And he actually, I thought he spun a little too much. That feels like a move that has always worked in high school and college for him, just a lot of spins. And it was less effective, but he still did get to spots using it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something he kind of excises or limits going forward. I thought he was fine as a point guard, as an 18-year-old rookie against a defense led by Victor Wembanyama. The problem to me with Dallas's whole deal is that nobody else on the floor with him can do anything with the ball. Klay Thompson, just zero as a shot creator for himself. He'll take some bad leaners or whatever when he just feels like he hasn't shot recently enough. Davis, not creating. Lively, certainly not supposed to create. PJ Washington, kind of a dependent scorer unless you're in transition. And so, this guy is the most important figure in your franchise by a mile, right? He's the reason fan revolts have simmered down and not boiled over post Luka. And you're making it impossibly difficult for him. You're putting him in a position that it's incredible he can handle as well as he can, but who is out there on the floor with him helping him be the best version of himself? Maybe you say the counter is trial by fire. If he's this great, he's not someone whose hand you have to hold. He just figures it out. I still think there's room for considering you want to be a huge lineup. Great. Let's see how it works. There's gotta be room for focusing on who do we put out there that make things easier for Cooper Flagg? Because shouldn't you care that he's not just getting, maximum difficulty situations every game all season? I just don't. That's the problem to me with Dallas's offense. Not the lack of a point guard, but the lack of other creators out there with Flagg. That could come at any position. They just don't have any of those guys.
Do you think? I would echo a lot of what you said about him. I saw a lot of people citing he was 1 of 6 at the rim. The fact that he was getting to the rim at all against that Spurs defense and within Dallas' spacing, the on-ball speed is there. I think the handle's a little bit better than I expected it to be. He looked comfortable. I know they weren't necessarily going in, but on the pull-ups, on the turnarounds, that's something he can clearly do. Do you think, though, so it comes down to like it needs to be someone else who could create with the ball rather than what if they were able to surround him in lineups that have 3 actual shooters.
You could go either way. Either way would work, right?
Okay.
Like if you're experimenting, do one or the other. I hesitate
Well,
to say
they can't do either, to be clear, because what is Cooper Flagg plus Davis or Lively? So it's only one of those. How do you get to 3 shooters without Kyrie?
D'Angelo Russell has to be one, I think.
Okay, we're done.
That's
over.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I hesitate to suggest that D'Angelo Russell is the answer to anything. But he's the only guy. It's obvious, right? This is the most like foreseeable take regarding Dallas is D'Angelo Russell is going to need a bigger role, at least until Kyrie comes back, because he can make open shots, because he can dribble, because he can play make. And if there's ever been a team that can cover up for what he doesn't do defensively, isn't it one that plays 4 power forwards next to him? So like that can move. This was easy to see coming. I guess I still respect the willingness to experiment. I just have a hard time with the idea that Flagg at this stage of his career is being asked to do something that like we don't think Devin Booker can do in Phoenix, which is like be someone that creates shots for himself, also is a spacer for others, and has to make plays. Like that's too much for him.
It can't be because they have Kyrie, but this should be the Kobe White team. That would be the perfect sort of in between. But you have Kyrie coming. Does that make it more difficult to? We don't need to get into trades this early in the season, but this is a team seemingly operating on a timeline that implies urgency. But how do you go out and get someone who addresses this issue, assuming they could game it because their cap situation is just they're towing a fine line underneath the second apron? How do you even go about it when you know that, well, or you don't know when Kyrie's going to come? Well, first of all, we've heard everything from Christmas, February, when his power crystal glows a hue of teal after a full moon. It's like, I don't know. You don't know when he's going to come back. That complicates it even further.
Sure. And I mean, part of that specific complication does just tie to what we need to admit is just a weirdly conflicting set of priorities and organizational decisions in Dallas. Like just going back to you traded Luka Doncic because you're on a win now timeline after he just took you to the finals and you got the number 1 pick. And now I guess you're still in win now mode. So you're just completely sabotaging his development early because he has to play point guard. Do you think it's a wild take, Dan, to say that Dallas has sort of like not done the best, planning timeline wise over the last 18 months or so?
You can't see the vision. I'm sorry.
I can't see the vision.
I will say this to me is a clear overreaction because I think he's good enough to where you can't even ruin. I might have already said this about him, but I came away from. Do you remember the Victor Wembanyama game a few years ago in Summer League where people were panicking?
The bad
I came
game.
on. I told you, I think he's going to be one of the best players I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. I don't know if I would go that far, but I came away. If I had only seen that Spurs game, I came away thinking about Cooper Flagg. Yeah, this guy's going to make multiple All-NBA teams.
Oh yeah,
I won't even hesitate to predict it. If
I just wish Dallas would maybe not ask him to do everything right away.
But I guess we run into the issue of, though, would we criticize them, though, if they went out and made a move that ensured he didn't need to do it? This is something, the criticism is, why didn't you do more to address this over the offseason? Because we're focusing on something that was very clearly going to be an issue. I think even had they done it in July, or if they do it now, they do it before February 5th, I don't know. I think we would probably criticize them if we see that they gave up future first-round equity to get Kobe White when they already have Kyrie Irving. You think you and I are going to come on and paint that deal in the rosiest of terms?
I don't know what I would think about that. I do like Kobe White.
Comment from LOL Troll 217. Cooper point guard trial by fire will pay dividends in the future years, in my opinion. That's at least. That's not after your handle at all. That's the least trolly comment we've honestly ever received. I would agree. There's nothing. Do you think anything bad is going to come out of this for Cooper Flagg other than the numbers might not look great?
My zag on this is just that he's not the problem. He's not the problem. I think he actually could do well at this. It's just you need to put somebody out there that can also pass and dribble.
I believe we are up to my pick, correct?
That's correct.
So we're this pick number 6. What do I have left on the board, Grant? I think you know where I'm going to go. but I am going to go exactly where you don't expect me to go. Let's talk about Anthony Edwards is going to win the scoring title, and I don't know if that's a good thing. More after this break. How is that for a teaser that we won't have? This is one of those thumbnails. The one bad reason you should be rooting against Anthony Edwards winning the scoring title if you're a Timberwolves fan. That might be too long when it comes to character count. So he has to do everything for this offense now. They saw it in Game 1. Dante DiVincenzo starts over Mike Conley, who doesn't really play. Neither of them were good. That seems to be a little bit of a problem. And then who else on this roster? Julius Randle, fine. But after that, it's Terrence Shannon Jr. doing the creation. Rob Dillingham. Chris Finch was evasive when asked about it, but let's just call a spade a spade. He's not ready. It's not an insult. He's a sophomore, doesn't have a ton of playing time under his belt. This team's trying to win. Anthony Edwards, the basketball player, looks absolutely terrifying. I don't know if he's going to average 40-plus points a game. I'm not ready to rule it out, though, because I think that he needs to carry that level of burden for the offense. What say you, Mr. Grant Hughes?
I had the same thought. I will say, well, let me ask you also, were you surprised? Because the DiVincenzo is going to start of it all kind of came out late, and I was ready to make the case earlier that I could see this happening a couple weeks in if Conley looks his age and the offense is kind of sputtering like it did for stretches last year. But to go with DiVincenzo Game 1 really felt like, to me, an admission of we know what we need, which is more dynamic shooting, just someone who's more mobile, et cetera, and Conley just doesn't have it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised to see this flip back if the offense continues to be so Edwards-centric. I do think it would be a problem if he is out there, crazy higher usage than before, blows away his career high for scoring, just because if that happens, we've kind of touched on this weirdly, like the Dallas issue and even the Houston issue of like, this guy's got to do too much. Like as great as he is and athletically unlimited and as much growth as he's shown, just adding a 3-point shot last year, it almost gets to where if he is leading the league in scoring, the Wolves are good, but it almost gets into like good stat, big numbers, bad team guy. Because if you're a better team, you don't need Anthony Edwards to get 40 every night. But it feels like the Wolves maybe are trending that way, especially if Gobert takes another step down. I don't know. Conley really can't be played. Dillingham's never going to be ready this year. Like there's a scenario where Edwards is leading the league in scoring and the Wolves just like aren't a top 6 threat, which is not what I thought they would be. I think they'll be that good. But it's got to happen with somebody running the offense besides Edwards, right? It can't just be him. Certainly not in the playoffs, especially. And those should be the games they care about. He's got to have somebody else out there doing stuff.
Do you think this is all, or are we overthinking it, or is it a problem when they do have Julius Randle on the team?
Julius Randle will confound me forever because it's undeniable that as a secondary creator at the 4, like he's valuable, and it's not because he's a Jokic level court mapper or anything, but it's because he'll compromise the defense with a drive and make the easy pass, and sometimes that's all you need from a secondary guy. He can do that. I don't know how valuable that is still, like just because sometimes he seems like the problem, but for this Wolves team, and this was kind of the analysis when they made the trade last year, like makes sense. Somebody besides Edwards to move the ball and create a shot once in a while, especially since Conley's slipping. Like, I just don't know what to do with Randle, because I guarantee you at points this year, he'll seem like the solution and he'll also seem like the problem. Like that's just how he exists in my brain.
I think I'm with you in the sense that I don't think he needs to get 41 points every game, but I don't know. Anthony Edwards needs to hover around 35 usage.
Yeah.
It feels as if they're going to need that from him this year, or at least it's not going to be solved internally, is what I would say.
Well, it is. Can I pitch you on something? Does Naz Reid starting over Gobert to just give you another offensive option and be a 5-out type of option?
Now
is that a way to work around neither DiVincenzo nor Conley is really good enough to start at the 1? Like, do you get better offense through him? And you compromise the defense pretty badly, obviously, but that's just how you have to do it.
And then I guess you connect Conley and Gobert again coming off the bench, but now you're just getting away so fundamentally away from what got you to 2 conference finals.
Right.
That it's just, I don't know. The idea of Randall and Naz Reid in the front court is just a counter, like throughout the game, sure. But as your starting front court, which playoff team would you feel comfortable with that starting front court against?
I mean, none. That's why I think there's a threat that they're not in the top 6 if that's how they have to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, if you don't get I'm still a, top 5 DPOY season from Gobert, and you don't have good point guard play, like what does Edwards have to do to get you up over 50 win? It just feels like they're going to have to make concessions somewhere after one game. Again, overreacting.
It is your turn. Which pick are you? We're 6 picks in. What's still on the board for you, Grant?
Oh, okay. Let's do this one. Nobody can beat a fully healthy Thunder 4 times in 7 tries. The counter to that is they needed double overtime in both their wins this year, and they went to 7 games in 2 series last postseason. So obviously the Thunder are beatable. The counter to the counter is it kind of looks like AJ Mitchell is just another guy that is going to be really good, and he's going to do it in ways that this Thunder team specifically desperately needs, which is he can get to the paint, and he can make a pass, and he can finish, and he can make open threes. You don't get that consistently from Wallace, from Dort, even Aaron Wiggins, who's also been pretty awesome. You don't necessarily get that from, who else am I forgetting? Wallace, Dort, anyway, Caruso. So
already missing games.
Already missing games. The other aspect of it, Shea is still Shea, and if he's going to get 26 foul shots a night, it was double overtime, but still, good luck winning close games against the Thunder. I thought, especially against Houston in the early going, Holmgren looked like he had leveled up offensively. The 3-point shot still rattles in. It rarely looks perfect, but it looks a little better. And I think some of his drives and some of his, just his aggression level getting downhill, just building off of last year, which I flagged that last year as this is impressive what he's doing offensively. I think Chet being someone that can be the secondary scorer, because Jalen Williams hasn't played yet, that's a factor. I think that really gives the Thunder, along with Mitchell, another way to keep the offense from looking really bad, which even against Houston, great defense, it still did. There were some gnarly stretches where the threes weren't falling. That was a huge part of it. But Mitchell addresses that too, and maybe Chet does. There's just this team is not at full strength, and you can still squint and see major growth from guys that address specifically what few frailties the Thunder have. So by the time you get to the postseason, maybe that growth has even increased and guys are healthy. It's just how do you hold out hope if you're some other team, especially in the West, right?
I think you're doing too much here. The fact that they just haven't had J-Dub, and now he'll come back and everything will trip. You mentioned that AJ Mitchell's, even Chet Holmgren, just all their jobs get so much easier. I feel like that should I know it took 2 double overtimes for them to be 2-0, and they're pretty beaten up right now. Look at who they were missing in the set. I know Indiana was missing a ton of players, including Andrew Nembhard by the end of it. But this team is just it has the ability to win in what you would say is unconvincing fashion, and then it just makes them more convincing because they're just able to win imperfectly. So a lot of these guys are going to shoot better from 3, and I just can't, unless you think J-Dub's going to be out forever or come back and the wrist injury is really going to have impeded his handle or something. I'm sure that's on the table. Especially after watching Nuggets Warriors, I kind of came away thinking, oh, all right, maybe the Thunder are ahead of the field more so than I thought. And I do think, I was just kidding when I'm saying you were doing too much. You justify your point too much, sir, is really what you were too thorough.
Keep it simple.
I don't know where Cason Wallace was in the most improved player ballot, but he was too low. Yeah. He was just too low. So there's always just going to be another guy here. And I think that the big takeaway from all this is there are going to be games where, hey, maybe at least one of Caruso, Wallace, and J-Dub are playing. Imagine how good the Thunder might be then.
Do you? I find myself, and I wonder if you do, like as I'm watching the Thunder, because you do have to start from the greatest point differential of all time, baseline. I find myself looking for reasons why they aren't clearly the best team. So I'll fixate on, well, they were 5 of 28 from 3 or something at one point against Houston. And man, this offense looks clunky. And if SGA is not getting downhill, they can't score. I'm looking for stuff because do you do that? Or because it's like, obviously the basic take is like, they're the best team by a lot. And I think I do that because I just want things to be more interesting competitively. So like, when you watch the Thunder, it sounds to me like you're just kind of like, man, this is overwhelming. They're really great. But do you like nitpick as much as I do? Because what else are we looking at when we're watching the Thunder other than saying like, wow, this team's good?
Well, I think what you do, I think you could and would be fair is, and how often as we talked about it, is are they still too over-reliant on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander offensively? And that's looked like the case so far this season. At the same time, they're missing a huge piece, and that huge piece is their second option on the offensive end, if not just their second best player overall. But I do focus on picking nits because, like, isn't that our job? We're supposed to believe that the NBA has this ton of parity, and I believe it does. I'm not saying the Thunder are, there was an air of inevitability with the Kevin Durant era Warriors that I don't think this Thunder team has, but maybe they have the potential to reach that level. You could still, you mentioned the 3-point shooting. There are still nights where it feels like they look imperfect. It looks like their wins they're harder than they need to be. So yeah, I'm open to the idea that a Denver, a Golden State, a Cleveland, or a New York or somebody could come in, but I do think that sometimes we overthink it. I think that's certainly
what
happened last season.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm guilty of that because I'm looking for reasons why this team isn't the juggernaut it seems to be. I think you have a pick next if you can get your light situated.
We're having some light situation. I'm having some light situations, I should say, and so it's very, very annoying. But the show
I'm happy
must
to steal a pick. I'll steal your pick if you want. If you need time for maintenance.
No, I can get us to another pick. So let's see. What do we have left? So I feel we've done how many West teams in a row have we done? I feel like it's time to go to the East. Let's do. Okay, here's this one. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Grant, is going to post the highest usage rate in NBA history. Now, just as a little bit of a background, Russell Westbrook currently owns the record. He had 41.6, I believe it was, in 2016, 2017. After one game, Giannis has a 48.3 usage rate, or depending on what you go by, it might be in the 45. They're also, I should note, they're dealing with an injury to Kevin Porter Jr., so it's just like, if it's not going to be Giannis, who else is it going to be type deal here.
This is how else is it going to happen for the Bucks? Like now, this is an overreaction, so it would be kind of amazing if he could get up into the high 40s in usage rate or even 45. But like, where else is the offense coming from if not him getting downhill and scoring or kicking to shooters or turning it over? Like that's the recipe here because there just aren't, especially with Kevin Porter, like he could sort of create shots. He's never been efficient at that task specifically. He's had some good shooting seasons, but like other than him, they're going to start Ryan Rollins with Porter out, and Rollins' offense is very much a question mark. I thought he might get that job eventually because he can guard, but now he's tasked with more of an offensive role with the starters. Like, I just think this was always going to be built around Giannis. I would not be at all surprised if he's at least threatening. This is one of the first overreactions we've gotten to, other than Wemby, of course, where it's like, yeah, I kind of see it. Like he might actually lead the league in usage. He might, or set the record. Because what is Miles Turner going to turn into, like a self-sufficient scorer all of a sudden? Where is it going to come from?
I honestly have no idea. What would be the best option if you had to pick? Let's assume everybody's healthy. Is it KPJ? Do you trust it to be, not trust? Trust is a strong word. I apologize.
No.
Is it Kyle Kuzma?
No.
So there's just no options. And then if you're the Bucks, let's say you have the ability to go out and change that. Do you do that when you have all the kind of Giannis stuff floating in the ether, the speculation, the rumors surrounding his future, his opaque comments on his future? I do not know, and I think that makes it tough. But if Giannis is going to have, let's say, a 45 usage, how good do you feel about, like, it's the only answer putting the ball in his hands, but do you think the Bucks are bad? Do you think that if he's healthy that they'll still just be fine?
I just don't think you can expect. Ask Russell Westbrook. You can't expect high efficiency if your usage is that high. Like, that just is sort of impossible. Like, the gold standard always was, if you're a 30% usage guy and your true shooting's over 60, that's Kevin Durant. You know, that's Steph Curry, and the usage was hard to get to for those guys. Giannis is a very efficient scorer, at least has been. If his usage is that high, I think even he, who just makes all the 2-point baskets because he dunks and lays it up.
65% on twos in the first game.
Yeah, so I just don't feel like that's sustainable. I think the other issue is, not to bring everything back to this, like, this is the recipe for him finally deciding, I can't win here. Because if you have to do everything, and he's always a player that's done everything, even with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez on the title winning teams, like, if he goes through this season and is just running himself into the ground and every possession lives and dies with him and the Bucks are 500, he has to finally look around and be like, if I actually do want to win a title, it must be conceded that it cannot happen here, because we don't have the ability to play any other way, and this isn't working. Like, this isn't enough. So, like, the narrative of he's killing himself out there and the Bucks are the 7 seed or the 8, like, that will have to drive the point home finally, and that's what will trigger the trade request. I can just see it playing out that way.
Now, is it counterintuitive to say Giannis will have the highest usage rate in NBA history, but Anthony Edwards is going to win the scoring title?
Yeah,
Edwards shoots more threes. Giannis will get more free throws. So I don't think it's that counterintuitive. Yeah. What's
the scoring average look like if Giannis is up there above Westbrook levels of usage? He's gonna have to be like 35 a game, right?
Do you think this is I don't think this is an overreaction.
No.
What would you go as far as to predict it? I would say his usage rate is gonna be at least 40, and if it's not, I feel like he might have been traded or something.
Yeah, I like that one. Maybe that's neither of those are overreactions. I support and favorite both of them. All right, I'm gonna take my next pick here. Let's see.
Pick number 9. We're nearing the end. Aren't you getting a little sad? I think
there's a certain yes. Well, I'm sad because there's one on the board, but I if you don't take it, I guess I have to take it with my next pick because I have 2 left. I'm gonna leave it because I want you to have to talk about it. Let's go with, where's my Lakers one? Here we go. The Lakers, Dan, are headed for the play-in or worse. This is an overreaction, Lakers fans. By definition, I'm not 100% sure that it's true. I will just say that based on one game, again, where Luka Doncic was really good, it was abundantly clear that there is not enough around him in the shooting department, in the shot creation department, in the DeAndre Ayton department, which is what everybody focused on. He looked really bad. It's Draymond Green, it's Al Horford, it's the Warriors. You know, that's a tough set of opponents to go at. We kind of knew this about the Lakers a little bit. Like, without LeBron, everything goes through Luka. Austin Reeves can even have a good game. There's just too many guys that when the ball gets swung to them, either you don't trust them as shooters or they're not going to put it on the floor and do something with it, or both. And just the makeup of the team offensively feels, it's kind of a banging the same drum here. Like, Luka has to do too much. And then defensively, like, there are defensive lineups that they can get to. It's just they involve Jared Vanderbilt and maybe Marcus Smart, who, by the way, Dan, was not doing what I would call playing basketball against Golden State. If you saw any of that game, whatever he was doing out there was a different sport that involved falling down and trying to dislocate Steph Curry's arm. Which is to say, like, I don't trust the defense at all, even with LeBron. And offensively, if LeBron's not out there and just pretty close to what he was last year, I don't think Luka has anything close to the level of talent around him that he did on, like, a lot of those Dallas teams. It's just this team doesn't have enough around him on either end to feel like a clear top 6. And I don't think either of us necessarily had them there preseason. Just the first game drove it home to me. It's like the issues are what we thought they were, and they're legit.
I, for one, am shocked that signing the 15th best center from the 2021 season did not just fix everything.
You've always been an Ayton defender too. Like, you weren't the whole like snowed in thing, the ice at the house, the mattress, like none of that ever. You were on board the whole time.
Yeah, I've been in the bag for, I think he's fine at this point he could probably be a starting center on a team that had not Luka and Austin Reeves defensively as their backcourt. And that's where I find myself more concerned about this team is, they might have a limited decision-making on the offensive end, but LeBron will play at some point, we believe. And so just between him, Luka, and Reeves, you'll figure it out on offense would be my belief. And if you don't, we have way, like they are so far gone. We don't even need to be talking about them on this podcast, quite frankly. I don't know, and you mentioned this already, how do you get to, even if you're willing to torpedo the offense, I know you mentioned Jared Vanderbilt, but how do you get, what is their best defensive lineup on paper? It is Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, Jordan
Gabe Vincent? Is he playing?
Gabe Vincent. I said Jordan Goodwin. I meant Gabe Vincent. Jordan Goodwin's on the Suns. They probably should have kept Jordan Goodwin. Does it have to be Smart by default, and then you just put LeBron or Luka in there? I don't. And what is that defense anyway? It's funny because they come out of their first game and they allowed 1.18 points per possession. I know it was the Warriors. So you could look at that and say, like, oh, there are other teams that did worse. I don't see it for this team on defense. And we talked a lot about this in the preseason is they're kind of short on, if you think that DeAndre Ayton's fine as your starting center, I will concede that. I didn't see anything that made me think he's still just allergic to rolling all the way, which is mind-boggling. It's not even the Dwight Howard thing to where it's Dwight just didn't want to do it. It's like he just bails out of it. Like at least when Dwight rolled, he rolled. It was more about why won't you actually put yourself in place where you can roll. I really do not. I just don't like. Jackson Hayes still needs to play is what I'm getting at. So like, if you think your starting center is set, what is happening at the backup five? Do you try and just get away with Jared Vanderbilt minutes there at some point more? Is Maxi Kleba ever going to be someone that you could trust there? And then the other thing, this sounds stupid to say, but like JJ Redick only, how many guys were actually part of the game one rotation when you really think about it? It was 9, but it kind of felt like it was 7 or 8, really, to where it was like if Jackson Hayes is on the floor, we're just conceding that these minutes are going to be a disaster and we're throwing him to the Wolves. So I don't. This might be an overreaction. I had them as a play-in team, I think, coming into the season, so it's not an overreaction to me. I don't know that LeBron comes back and they'll win more games, they'll be a better team, but to your point, he's not fixing the defense, and it's been, when's the last time we even pointed to LeBron as someone who is helping your defensive ceiling?
Yeah, not consistently, maybe in spurts. I just think it would have been nice in their opener to have seen a couple things that would have put the lie to our preconceived notions of the defense is just going to struggle, or like had the Lakers schemed differently or used Vanderbilt at center a lot. They'd done something to give us a sense of like, well, okay, it could work this way, as opposed to just reaffirming all of the concerns that we had that had us kind of putting them in the play-in territory. That would have been nice. Maybe we'll get that.
Is there anything to, well, this team has to shoot better from 3? Luka 2 of 10 against the War. Is that right? Oversimplifying it?
You could say, because they do have if it's like Hachimura and Gabe Vincent and Jake LaRavia or maybe Dalton Connect does what he did early last year, there are guys that you've got to guard at least, and Luka can find them. So maybe that's a way forward. That doesn't address the defensive stuff. I don't know that anything can at this point. You've got a pick to go here.
Oh, I do. What am I going to go with, though, Grant? I know what you want me to go with. I'm not even sure if I want to talk about it. But I feel like to stay true to the brand, I should be the one to pick it, though. So we are going to talk about the New York Knicks and how they are the clear favorite in the Eastern Conference after one game, a win over the Cleveland Cavaliers that looked like at one point it was going to be a blowout, and then they they did let the Cavs come back. And so
Donovan Mitchell happened in the third quarter.
Donovan Mitchell happened in the third quarter. Evan Mobley was happening throughout that game, quite frankly, even when the shots weren't going in. I came away from that. I was surprised at how many people didn't come away from that game thinking that the Knicks are materially different. You see, like OG Anunoby bringing the ball up on the floor, bringing the ball up the floor after rebounds. Mikal Bridges, more initiation. There was a stat from AOP_NBA, someone I've actually worked with on the side. Shout outs to him, does great work with his graphics. Jalen Brunson, Grant, since he's joined the Knicks, has never spent more time off the ball or had more of his field goal attempts come off assists. That is insanity. And I think you could say, not Jalen Brunson's most efficient game. Some of the shots he was taking, they're going to go in. And yeah, they still went to him in crunch time. You're still going to need him to bail you out a lot. I think that I think it's going to come together for him. And like in this offense of playing off the ball more. I've never subscribed to the idea that he's not adaptable. I'd be more worried about Karl Anthony Towns, quite frankly. The other thing that I noticed, and this is probably the wrong takeaway to come away from that game, just Mikal Bridges getting 2 feet in the paint. This is someone who, and we saw this in preseason, but last year he took almost 20% of his shots came as twos outside of the paint. I think it was like 18.6% or something. He took one of those shots in the first game of the season. It was kind of, and I know that he only took 11, but like when you look at his drives per minute were up. He was getting deeper into the paint. They're trusting him with more initiation. His number of touches in the front court were technically down, but his ball possession per minutes of court time were actually up. They weren't putting him at the point of attack as much defensively. I think being able to play Deuce McBride with him helps. We saw OG Anunoby there as well. What I would say, and we saw, Grant, I don't know if you saw this, we even saw some OG Anunoby at the 5 for a hot minute.
I watched that whole game. I don't remember clocking that, but that's fun.
It's a new dawn in the Mecca, sir. And what I will say is that OG Anunoby is going to make first team all defense. Jalen Brunson will be top 5 on the MVP ballot. And I think this team wins 60-something games, even though their center rotation is banged to shit. Here's my actual takeaway from this, though, is that I do believe the Knicks are more dynamic than last season. I think it's an overreaction right now to say they're the clear favorites to come out of the East. And I think Cleveland's going to be better as they get Max Strus back, as they get DeAndre Hunter back, as they get Darius Garland's pretty good, right? Who's he? I heard he's semi-important. Lonzo Ball might make a 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
I find myself a little worried about the Cavs defense. I know they have Allen and Mobley, and Allen will get better once Garland comes back specifically. But I wasn't an Isaac Okoro guy, but as a defensive innings eater in the regular season, I find myself wondering, did they need Isaac Okoro a little bit now? But also the Orlando Magic exist, and we don't know if their offense is going to be good, but they're probably going to make some more threes. Apparently they're not going to play faster, which, whatever. So I don't think the Knicks are there yet, in part because what the fuck, Grant? Emphasis on fuck is going on with their injuries right now. The Josh Hart back tweak, no big deal. He'll be ready for opening night, except he won't be. And by the way, he's not going to practice or participate in anything that has to do with contact in the meantime. We're going to load manage Mitchell Robinson so meticulously that he can't play on opening night. There's nothing to see here about his ankle. And you have Karl Anthony Towns after game 1 saying, I'm trying to play through a grade 2 quad strain.
Yeah.
That's not, first of all, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. That's not something you do. Like grade 2, I looked it up. Those are classified as partial significant tears.
Right.
You're not, if the Knicks let him play through that, someone needs to get fired. I know he wants to be out there for the fans, but you need to shut him down. Again, if that's the injury. So they were pretty healthy last season. I know Jalen Brunson missed time, but Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, even Towns, they played a bunch. And I'm just starting to wonder, the depth is important because they might need it just to get by. But when in game 1, you already found yourself, Trey Jemison needed to get minutes.
Yeah.
And Ariel Huckporty was starting. That's actually my question with the Knicks is, 1, are they as deep as we think? But 2, of these 3 sort of just WTF injury situations, are we just of the belief that they're all just going to resolve themselves and be perfectly fine? So I think the Knicks are better. I think they're more dynamic. They could win the East. I think it's a stretch to say, especially because they just beat the Cavs, who were shorthanded themselves, that they need to be the clear favorites in the East. Look, our viewers went up as I was yelling about the Knicks. Is that the recipe?
I'll say the quiet part out loud. These injuries are just the result of unbending taskmaster Mike Brown and his 3-a-day preseason practices and his ridiculous minute demands and his refusal to lengthen the rotation. And until the Knicks get a coach that's willing to be more dynamic and not run his players into the ground, this is just going to be your reality, Dan, and you're going to have to adjust to it. Isn't it funny that like Tibbs is gone and this is what's like how all these guys seem broken down? It's like maybe Tibbs was on to something. Maybe running guys into the ground keeps him healthy, Dan.
Well, isn't it wouldn't the counter be he's the one that broke them and then left before he could actually reap the consequences?
There's no way to prove that playing everybody 47 minutes a night leads to injury down the line. Good luck with that one.
Can we go on an aside really quickly? One, he did play 11 players by the end of the first quarter. But two, what did you see the report that the Knicks also did background exploration of talking to Joe Mazzulla before they hired Mike Brown? I have two takeaways from this. That is a level of just audacious due diligence that I just respect at this point.
Is that just Googling him, though? Is that just Googling Joe Mazzulla and it says Boston Celtics head coach? And like, oh, shit, he's already taken.
Or like Chat GPT, what's his contract status, probably. But with this information coming out, I know that these open, just hot. Like if you're Mike Brown and you're saying, so why was their seventh choice behind Billy Donovan at some point? That has to clock. I know there's only 30 head coaching jobs, but I want to say, as someone who went off on their coaching search at first, and I did walk it back after, I respect it. It was so just brazen. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, what the hell? Why don't you see what psychopath Joe Mazzulla? And by the way, some of these guys owe the Knicks a thank you because of, I think 7 or 6 currently employed head coaches. 4 of them ended up getting extensions after the fact. So
yeah, do you think the Knicks get a cut of that? Just because clearly they made it happen.
Maybe they get maybe through like carbon credits or something. Where are you at with the Knicks though relative to the rest of the East?
I came into the year viewing Cleveland as probably better, but the Knicks in that tier of 2. And then you've got your, like Orlando, not quite there for me yet, but obviously is the one you'd pick to get into that top echelon of the East. I don't know that I left the opener thinking a whole lot differently other than, like, as you alluded to, the Knicks are going to play differently. Like their players, like Brunson will be doing different stuff and OG will be doing and Bridges. So that was my main takeaway. I think the other side of it was I was pretty unimpressed by Cleveland, at least until Donovan Mitchell made it a game in the second half, but that was sort of all he had. He couldn't carry that through to the fourth. Obviously, Cleveland was missing critical players, like Garland being chief among them. Pretty impressed by Mobley. I still think at full strength, I just trust the Cavs to say win more games in the regular season or play like a team that can win more games. Obviously being at full strength affects how many games you're going to win. But I'm very encouraged by the Knicks just because it does feel different. And that was always the hope, is that like, well, maybe they aren't better on balance, but they'll try to get there a different way. And maybe there's a higher ceiling that way. Early indications are just like, yeah, this is not going to be the same operation. That's all you want, right? Like really from the Knicks. It's not like they lack talent. It just needed to be deployed a little differently. And I think we saw that.
I'm curious. I really want to know what the defense is going to look like when everyone's together, because it was just, you can't get a good sense of it right now. But OG Anunoby looks fantastic. Mikal Bridges not defending at the POA every second looked really good on him. How much of that was, Cleveland made some offensive mistakes. I will say as a bonus, is this even an overreaction? I had Mobley in my top 5 on my preseason NBA ballot. He looked feeling pretty good about it. The really handle, he looked really good. Your last pick. Handle with care.
Here's where the question comes in. Like, do I trust you to take this one so we can talk about it, or are you too afraid? Are you too much of a coward to take it?
I think it's always safe to assume that I'm a coward. So if you want to talk about it, you should probably talk about it now.
All right, I'm going to do it. Dan, overreaction time. Reed Sheppard is a bust.
Oh, man.
Would you have taken it? Would you have
taken
it?
No. Okay, I figured I was going to go somewhere. We've already talked about the Rockets. I was going to go to something else, but.
So this is one of the few overreactions that in the moment as I was watching the game, almost verbatim, the thought occurred to me. So I feel like, just to be honest about my thoughts.
I feel attacked. I can't do this anymore. I feel attacked.
It's one game, so don't feel too attacked. I don't even care that he couldn't make shots. the concern for me is two. The main one is, and the most conspicuous issue is, he got absolutely torched. Not just by Shea, because that's going to happen, but like Lou Dort is driving downhill at him and spinning for clean layups. Like didn't Reed Sheppard have a reputation in college as like a shockingly disruptive defender? Like someone that actually, I mean, it's like the steal rate and the deflection stuff and whatever. He is going to have to figure out how to not be completely targeted on every possession by every team, or he will not be playable. That side of the ball, like maybe it was nerves, maybe it was the Thunder are just mean. But it wasn't just major offensive threats that were making him look really bad. It was kind of everybody. So that's a huge red flag and a huge problem that could be significant enough on an Ime Udoka team that, a lot like Jamal Mosley in Orlando, like basically demands that you can guard. And so like, even if it were true that if given the minutes, Sheppard could really be the other offensive fulcrum, or like a playmaker, I guess, shot generator that this team needs to support Thompson, to support Sengun, even if that were true, which nothing so far we've seen suggests that it is, he might not get the opportunity because he just can't guard, specifically on this team that requires that, right? So like, I think the Reed Sheppard is coming in to save this operation was always like ridiculous, but
whoa.
I mean, you know, but
now I feel attacked.
I just think like if he's not gonna, he might not be able to get on the floor if he's gonna defend like this, and an overreaction caveat, flashing neon sign, like one game, so on and so forth. It was the Thunder, so on and so forth. If his defense looks like this, I don't know why he's going to get more than the 500 whatever minutes he got last year.
This is an overreaction. You're an idiot. I don't know who even nominated it. Here's my thing, and you already said this. It was one game, but you said this at the end. It was one game from someone who is basically in his rookie season when you look at how much he played last year. And I think that while the Thunder offense was like no starter was allowed to make a three for the most of that game, they have someone who is kind of able to pick the way that they can run their offense. Is they're going to pick on certain guys, and they singled Reed Sheppard out for whatever, not for whatever reason, because he struggled so much.
I can think of a few reasons why they might have gone that way.
To your previous point, some of the people building him up, coming him out of the draft, was like, when you look at his size, like he might have some strength, like he'll be fine on defense. So if you want to panic about the defense, sure. I look at the offense, and the fact that he couldn't handle OKC's pressure bringing the ball up a few times, it did make me a little queasy. But then we just talked about it with Amen Thompson and the Rockets at large. It was OKC. Yep. And so I think what needs to happen with sophomores who are less than 1,000 minutes or whatever into their NBA regular season careers, they need reps. And the Rockets need to figure out whether they have the stomach to offer him those reps. I'm not saying you need to run the entire offense through him. I also think, by the way, that is I know what this team needs, but part of the Reed Sheppard feature is, well, don't put him on the ball all the time. Run him off some screens. Help him space the floor for Amen Thompson or for Alperen Sengun. I think they can do more of that moving forward. To say, and I'm not saying you're saying this was just the topic, even though I just want to reiterate, you suck and this is mean. He's not, well, how many games before we would legitimately say, oh, he can't play, this isn't someone who's going to be on the court during the playoffs? It's not after one game against the Oklahoma City Thunder of all teams, but is it 21 games, a quarter of the season? Like, is it 15? When do you actually start to get, or do you start sounding the alarm bells?
I was going to say, if we get past the midway point of the season and we feel the same way, where like the offensive efficiency isn't where it needs to be, even after maybe trying him in the ways I think you're correctly suggesting he might be better used on offense. And if it's, I mean, the defense I think might crystallize sooner. Like if we go a month and every time he's out there, he's getting targeted and he's not holding up, we can probably make some pretty like firm conclusions on what he can be defensively at that point. I think offense is just going to take longer and will take exploration of like, how else can we make him valuable? That's a half season thing for me. I do think like, we always say like the team itself knows a little more about the guy, right? Like they see him in practice, they see what it looks like against, internal competition. The fact that Thompson just got the starting point guard job, and I don't know about you, but I kind of thought, well, Sheppard and Thompson will start together. Like that'll be your backcourt coming into the season. Like most of the summer, that's what I thought. The fact that he didn't get that job at the outset and then looks bad right away, this is why we're overreacting. But that's not a positive sign. And I really do think there is something to the defense just making it so Udoka is not going to play him, even if he becomes a much better offensive player, especially as a playoff proposition. I would love it if he were an innings eater and got to run the show as a point guard against second units. Maybe we haven't seen a ton of that. Like that would be something to explore. But the defense could just be the non-negotiable, right? Like that might be the thing that sorry, man, you can't play.
Do you? I guess how much of that though? So when you look, Dorian Finney-Smith not healthy right now. Tari Eason was pretty awful. Is that
Very
a stretch
bad
to say in that first game?
Conspicuously bad.
You already know. Even though I said, okay, having him space the floor around Amen Thompson, it's, well, because Amen Thompson has so much ball handling responsibility right now, you already know those two should be staggered. Mm-hmm. Is it they need to experiment more with who they're tying him to? Like there was I can't remember what the lineup was, but he was with Sengun and Durant, Reed Sheppard, and I think Eason might have even been, but like it worked. And it was maybe you just need to insulate. He probably shouldn't be on the floor with Clint Capella at this stage is my point. Well, now that gets fuzzy because you're dealing with because then you're dealing with bench units. But I'm actually wondering if you can put better defense around him. And yes, it's probably I'm twisting myself into a pretzel saying, well, how many really good defenders do you need around him? But I'm even saying you look at the lineups, you probably just need one really good perimeter defender on the court with him. And it gets harder for them to do that when Fred VanVleet's not healthy. So you're going to stagger him from Amen Thompson. So rule him out a lot of the time. And then is Tari Eason going to play like he did? That wasn't the expectation. And so when Dorian Finney-Smith comes back, I'm wondering if you're like that settles out a little bit. And so you're not talking about, is it Josh Okogie? Do we need Kevin Durant to do something defensively on the perimeter? I think Reed Sheppard's going to be fine. Now, is my optimism waning a little bit? No, because I am a tried and true Reed Sheppard believer. And if I won't believe in him, clearly who will?
Yeah. I just want to say, it would be a lot more fun if he could just be what the Rockets need him to be. I'm not ruling it out. That was a rough game.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What were the number of games that you said just you're dead set on, we need to hit the panic button? I'll go 82.
Okay. I mean, you could give him a full season. I'm going to go half just to be meaner about it.
Okay, so we are on to me. It's the final pick. And so, Grant, we have some decisions to make here. Let's talk it through. Help me make my final pick here. Now, we could do what I think the masses would do. We could do what this podcast would do. Or we could straddle the in-between.
I think you know what? I definitely just picked from my heart and what I wanted to talk about. So it might be a masses pick. I think you might want to just keep the most people happy. What do you think about that?
All right, then. So we are going to go with VJ Edgecombe is Rookie of the Year. Yeah. It is not Cooper. Who even is Cooper Flagg, Grant?
He's not a point guard. I'll tell you that.
For all that we took away that was negative about Joel Embiid's debut in Philadelphia, VJ Edgecombe was spectacular. Just the chemistry, but first of all, Tyrese Maxey was great too. The chemistry between him and Maxey, when Maxey was just going off for 17 and VJ Edgecombe kind of took a step back. VJ Edgecombe is scoring 10 straight points, and Tyrese Maxey, I don't know how much he was on the floor for that, but they played off one another really well. The speed at which they play is insane. If you had to give me one word to describe VJ Edgecombe right now, it might be fearless. He took 13 threes. He doesn't, like, the way he gets up and down the floor in transition, even just his baseline cuts are, oh no, I'm going to go, I don't care, I'm going to go all the way to the basket. This is the backcourt of the future in Philly, is unless you think VJ Edgecombe is a 3, which fine, that would actually work out quite well for the Sixers because of who else is on the roster. Where do you land on, we came into this season and everyone said, before we get there, what were just your initial impressions of the VJ Edgecombe experience?
I think it's hard for me to divorce them from the fit with Maxey, which gives the Sixers this identity of we are faster and more athletic than you, and we will get up and down and we will attack. Like that kind of identity that, like, as a tandem, one is super exciting, and two, kind of doesn't fit if Joel Embiid's in the way and like needs a bunch of elbow touches all the time. Like that feels like a real like impasse potentially. So that was the other thing I thought just while enjoying it all was, I don't know if like, can you kind of do both of these? Can you be both of these things? That's a good problem, because it would be, you prefer it to, Edgecombe doesn't look ready, or that athleticism is not going to translate on either end. It's just, he's not a basketball player. Like if that's what we were talking about, that would be a bigger issue. But I did kind of fixate on the fit stuff. I think it's just really exciting because, I don't know, maybe also in contrast to the Embiid stuff where it's like, it's disheartening to watch him move like he moves and play like he's playing. And then you get to see Edgecombe just like explode all over the floor and just be aggressive, like you said. It's a nice like little chaser for it helps the medicine go down a little smoother. Really fun. Like I think Flagg is gonna get his numbers, and it'd be a massive upset if anybody else pushed him for Rookie of the Year. But if Edgecombe's gonna have this kind of role, and he's going to get to shoot this much, and he's going to get to like just do the whole explore the space kind of thing this much, doesn't he have to at least be like your clear number 2 now, like moving Harper out of the picture and Ace Bailey, and we haven't seen, by the way, but I think he moves to number 2 at minimum, right? Just based on this. How many other guys are going to score 30 plus in their rookie season this year? Probably not many.
No, I think, look, VJ Edgecombe probably needs to average 30 plus for the Sixers, right? I like what I really like about him, and I don't know if he definitely has the feel for how to toggle between the two existences, but like he can work as someone who's trying to look for his own offense, or just work as, I'm going to play off everyone else and within the flow of the game, get out in transition, cut, shoot threes off the catch, like I mentioned before. I'm curious as to what his role is going to be once Paul George comes back on the offensive end is the bigger deal to me. And then you mentioned it before with Joel Embiid coming in and out of the lineup. We have the Quentin Grimes situation here too as well.
McCain. I mean, McCain's going to need to play.
Yeah. So I don't expect that he's going to have these gaudy numbers all year. And if he does it bring into question of, well, where are the Sixers in the Eastern Conference? Because I don't know if, they pulled out the victory against Boston, but if EJ Edgecombe is your second best offensive player, it's good, and it's also kind of, where do we sit in the standings? I don't know if that's bad, but that would bring about an existential question.
It is like, we do need to acknowledge, like, if he's the best or second best rookie this year, chances are he's like maybe a break-even player just because of what happens, like what rookies do, So yeah, if he's in a massive role all season, that would be an interesting like thought exercise. We flash forward to April. VJ Edgecombe has played 2,500 minutes and averaged 22 points a game. Where are the Sixers in the East standings? It'd be like either second or 12th. I don't know. Like it's hard. Maybe, you know what? We've been wrong all along. Joel Embiid is not the barometer for the Sixers. It's Edgecombe.
It might be. And the other thing I'll just second, it's not quite at the level of their different body types, but the on-ball speed from him is just sort of sneaky. And I know there was the one play, I think it was Xavier Tillman. So it's Xavier Tillman. But he's bringing the ball up in semi-transition and just blows right through the gap to his right and just like thunder dunks the boomstick. I liked him coming out of school. I don't remember where he ended up on my big board, but this is just, if he's playing like this, what does that even do to your future? It makes it better and more complicated at the same time because of who's also on this roster. Even if this was really a question of saying VJ Edgecombe has the best chance of challenging Cooper Flagg for Rookie of the Year, because the first one's an overreaction. Is the second one also an overreaction?
I really still like Dylan Harper, even though he had some real hits and misses in his opener. And Bailey, who knows? But I mean, certainly right now, Edgecombe has shown production, and the other guys have been like, well, speculatively, they might be pretty good. So I don't think it's an overreaction if you, based on that game, said, this guy, he's number 2. I don't think that's crazy.
Man, that does it for us, Grant. So we are... Well, no, that's Reed Sheppard. I don't have the recap. The recap of our picks I can throw up on screen. But how did you feel about our first annual takes draft?
I feel like we tied. Actually, I feel like I won because because you weren't going to take the Reed Sheppard square, and I did it, and it was the right choice, and so I correctly gamed the draft. I didn't have to waste an early pick on it to get it in there. So I felt pretty strongly about it because we were competing. I don't know if you knew that there was only one winner.
I think I win because I waited until pick number 9, or was it 10? Where did I pick the Knicks? That was at number 10.
Great restraint by you.
Great restraint by me. So I feel like I win. What do you think what was I going to pick with the final pick? Because it wasn't VJ Edgecombe.
I think you were gonna go. Ooh, I bet you were gonna go. Cam Johnson the Cam Johnson trade was a mistake.
I thought that was the middle ground. I was gonna go with what would have been on brand for this podcast and say the Utah Jazz are not going to be the worst team in the Western Conference. They look fun. Fun. Will Hardy is so getting fired for making them too good.
That guy can't do anything wrong. That's the problem. Yeah, that was the most shocking of the full slate of opening night games results and first quarters. By the way, it was like 43-19. Jazz were up on the Clippers.
The halftime score was because I wasn't watching it live. I saw the halftime score and was thinking, holy crap, what is going on in that game?
Right.
And you dig into it, and it's, oh, my God. First of all, Walker Kessler, it's good he didn't get an extension. He might just get a max contract now. Jesus Christ. Do you have anything else, or are you ready to take us out of here?
Nope, that'll do it. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching. Remember, please rate, review, subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. You can give us hype points, as Dan mentioned. Leave some comments there as well. Which of these are not overreactions, other than the
Let us know
one?
your overreactions. I want to hear everyone else's.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the time to do it, because pretty soon they'll just have to be takes, and they don't get to be called overreactions. You don't get that level of cover.
Can they still be hot takes, though?
Yeah, I think those you're allowed to. Yeah, hot takes are good anytime. I don't think there's really like a part of the season you can't offer those. What else? Our over-unders are closed. You cheaters! If you're trying to enter one now, it's too late because we already know some results. We'll keep tabs on that all season. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jarrett Allen.